because again, originally they were supposed to buy the whole store, and it turns out, well, that in fact is not the case. They're going to own a pinch more than 10%, and what that ultimately means for Sony is exactly what the number is. They have 10%. Now, granted, 10% is still a sizable aspect of any company. It's 1/10 of the company's value. They own it. That's a decent sized deal, but it's nowhere close to an acquisition, which was originally, run about by the PlayStation community. They were running around with W's the size of King Kong, and it turns out, well, that's not what happened. And it probably has a lot to do with the available and spendable capital that Sony has. I know that we're sitting here laughing, but we're going to get serious now because I do have the presser here, thanks to Wario64 of Twitter, and basically it's titled "Kadokawa and Sony agree to form a strategic capital and business alliance, further strengthening collaboration to maximize both companies' IP value globally." So here is two snippets of the presser, both from Takashi Natsuno, who's the chief executive officer or the CEO of Kadokawa Corporation. And he says this, "We are very pleased to conclude this capital and business alliance agreement with Sony. This alliance is expected to not only further strengthen our IP creation capabilities, but also increase our IP media mix options with Sony support for global expansion, allowing us to deliver our IP to more users around the world. We are confident that this will greatly contribute to maximizing the value of our IP and increasing our corporate value in the mid to long term. We intend to do our utmost to ensure that our collaborative efforts with Sony produce great results in the global market." Now, this next presser, or the next snippet of the press release, comes the way from Hiroki Totoki, who, of course, is the money man at Sony. He is the president, COO, and the CFO of Sony Group Corporation. He goes on to say this, money. "Through this capital and business alliance, we will become the largest shareholder of Kadokawa, which consistently creates a wide variety of IP, including publications and books such as light novels and comics, as well as games and anime. By combining Kadokawa's extensive IP and IP creation ecosystem with the strengths of Sony, which has promoted the global expansion of a wide range of entertainment, including anime and games, we plan to work closely together to realize Kadokawa's global media mix strategy aimed at maximizing the value of its IP and Sony's long-term vision, Create Entertainment Vision," which is titled CEV. So, okay.
There's a bunch of fluffing on both sides.
I mean, it ultimately is. I do want to just kind of jump out in front of this before I hand the mic over to you, because I'm very interested to hear you from a businessman's point of view, because obviously you own your own business and you understand a lot of the terminology that's being used here as well as I do. By no shape, form, or shenanigans should anyone think that the next Elden Ring, which sold almost as much as it did on PlayStation, of course, PlayStation sold more, that somehow that IP is going to be locked up and just dropped onto the next PlayStation and PC only. That's not going to happen. When you see collaborations like this, they are in it for the money. They're not in it for your console war. They're not in it for your list war. They're not in it for your Twitter wars. They're in it to make money, and that is exactly why Sony, and again, I have the exact stats here. Again, a big shout out to Wario64, who's always on top of this. It turns out Kadokawa and Sony agreed to form this strategic capital and business alliance. Sony is acquiring 12,054,100 new Kadokawa shares for approximately 50 billion yen. Sony will become Kadokawa's largest shareholder, holding approximately 10% of its shares, including the shares Sony previously acquired in February of 2021. There's a lot to break down here. Let's get your thoughts there, C-Money.
Yeah, I mean, listen, for the people who like number one, just to I guess this is something that has to be said, so let's just make it clear. When you hear the percentage of what is owned, right? Like you can't do pony math, right? Where it's like, hey, Call of Duty's 30% that goes to PlayStation, they might make more money off of Call of Duty than the 70% that Xbox gets, right? Let's be beyond, let's get a little bit beyond the pony logic that's used, right? So Kadokawa, whatever their name is, they have 100% of their company, right? And a certain percentage of that is owned by someone else, right? Tencent owns like 6 and change. And then now Sony upped theirs to 10%. Somebody was asking, it's not an additional 10%? No. They just paid the difference. I told you they did it on their Robinhood app. Okay. They didn't even talk to these people. They were just like, you know what? Let's just dial it in. Right. So they just own 10% or 10, a little more than 10. All right. So understand this. There is no way, shape, or form where Sony has the ability to tell Kadokawa what to do. They have no decision-making capability. They can sit down and suggest things. They can sit down and say, hey, would it be a good idea to do this? But Kadokawa is going to go say, go F yourself. We saw everything that happened on your PlayStation with these other exclusives you got. You think we're going to take our IP that finally is making us money? Finally, we're worth something because Elden Ring got released, and now we're going to drop that to give it to you? No, thank you. And that's going to be the other. Honestly, they didn't even mention PlayStation in this at all. Sony knows better. Sony didn't want this for the games. Sony didn't want it for the games. It's just a fact. They wanted it for the anime.
Yeah, man.
And Kadokawa knows their value. And if they would have gotten rid of the anime plus the gaming, right, they would have no value, right? It would be done. Whatever else they do is just not enough, right? And the reason we know this is that even with the anime, even with the gaming, no one is stepping up to purchase, right? Sony can't. We know they want that anime. They want the anime. Microsoft don't give a crap about the anime, and they're not going to buy them for one game from one studio that's just not, like, this is their first time coming out here with huge success, right? It just doesn't make any sense for Microsoft. They're getting the game anyway. Why would they buy it, right? It means nothing to them. So no one else is, though, right? No one else is buying the building. So that just means Kadokawa believes that they're worth more than they actually are. And that's just the reality, right? If they were worth what they were putting out there, somebody would have stepped up. We know Sony was willing to take loans from whatever place that they got to try to get Paramount, right?
And that
they
failed.
tried.
Yeah.
That failed,
yeah.
right? So at the end of the day, this is just what we see, right? The facts are the facts. There's no reason to try to do the loop-de-daisy and see if we can figure out how this actually works out for the ponies. It doesn't. It means nothing. All it tells you definitively is what we've been telling you the entire time, but you guys still think that it's wrong. You still have this make-believe La La Land world where you think that Sony has more than they factually have. There's no hidden safe at Sony, okay? They don't have this little cutout in the wall and they reach into it and it's like Santa's, sack where they just keep reaching it infinitely. They can find more and more money in there. They don't have it. They don't have it. They've been at this for a very long time. They're not a new company. Sony's been around for a very long time. Understand the worth of the company making a PlayStation. They will never be anywhere near the likes of a Microsoft or an Apple or a Google. They don't offer enough value to anyone to do that. You, ponies, are the only people who think they offer value, yet clearly, their box is simply a third-party box. They have no intention on investing in PlayStation Studios to start dropping you 5, 6, 7, 8 games a year like we get on Xbox. They don't care about you like that. No. I see y'all putting the numbers out there. I see you putting it out. Oh, they made $27 billion. Great. First of all, that's gross. Learn the difference in business, right? Gross means nothing. Net is the only thing that matters. But let's even go deeper than that. Out of that 27 bill gross, why don't you break down to me how much of that comes from PlayStation first-party studios? Oh, not much. Got it. So they are worthless to the majority of people. Sony only cares about the Fortnite players and the Call of Duty players and everyone else who shows up to play third-party games on their box. That's why at the end of the day, they don't have anything of value to offer. How can they grow? They have nothing of value to offer. The first-party studios are non-existent. So PlayStation is never going to be more than just what it is. You're only at 65 mil. PlayStation 4 sold more. PlayStation 2 sold even more. So you can't look at it like they grew. They didn't. You're still not there. Past the PlayStation 2, and then we can talk about, wow, look, they actually grew their install base. But they didn't.
Again, I think what people fail to realize, and the number is concurrent for every generation. You've heard people talk about this. And again, taking nothing away from Sony, they have sold a lot of consoles. But you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that these companies, Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, are selling to the same 200 million consumers across the three platforms.
Wait, who? Xbox not. They moved on. They have
more
that they're selling to.
No. Well, that's again, that's a horse of another color, because that's why Xbox is making these big drastic moves, because they can't keep selling to the same 200 million as they did for the Wii era and the GameCube era and the PlayStation 3 era and the Xbox One and PS4. They need to find new customers, which is why Microsoft is going in a way different direction. And yes, it's painful. If you're an OG like me, you don't like this kind of change. You want your stuff to
I'm
stay
an
the
OG.
same.
I want games.
I want games. Yeah.
So remember when I said earlier, when PlayStation will not invest more to give 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games, to all the ponies in the chat and to all the ponies listening, you can claim to love games. You can, sure, do your thing. But at the end of the day, there's only one box with a platform holder who is creating games for the players. I don't care who else plays it, but I get it day one in Game Pass. There's only one platform holder. I mean, technically, Nintendo can do it every once in a while. They'll give you 4 or 5 games in a year. Let's talk, the ones that we compare, which is PlayStation and Xbox. Between the two, there's no comparison here. As a gamer, sit down. I don't want to hear you talk anything about PlayStation. They're non-existent, bro. They're non-existent. We had so many games released this year. You can categorize games the way you want, because again, I know if it's not that simulator, then it doesn't count as a game. Sorry, fam. I played the shit out of a bunch of different games that Xbox made. Xbox first party made. Okay. That is the reality of where we are. So you could continue to pretend like playing a third-party game is the same. It's not. We all get third-party games. Are you talking about the little ones that your PlayStation people decided to money hat because those companies are broke or too weak or too scared that their game is actually going to sell, so they take the bag? Because I know a certain developer who's making Crimson Desert said, nah, Sony, I'm good. My game's going to sell. We don't need you. See, y'all get the broke ones. Y'all get the people who are literally just praying and hoping that their game hits. God, please let me get a shot in life with this game. So Sony's like, all right, here's $15 and a coupon for a Happy Meal. Hopefully this gets you through. How do I know that? I don't know. Maybe because some of these games that took the bag are not doing well out in these streets. I don't know. It's funny because we don't have those conversations over here, isn't it? Isn't it weird that we don't have those conversations over here? Why? Because over here, we get the games. We get the games for free. They're in our Game Pass. They're in there. We just enjoy 8-10 games a year from Microsoft. And you're trying to compare us, fam? There is no comparison. You are delusional. You're hyped off of games that don't exist anymore. Where are these games that you're talking about, fam? Ghost of Tsushima 2 doesn't exist. You're getting Ghost of Yote. Some chick, you have no idea who she is. You have no idea if you're going to give a damn about that story, and you're hyped for that?
Well, look.
I'm not. I'm not hyped for that.
I'll say this. The truth of the matter is that this deal, like the Paramount deal, was sold as, again, Sony didn't sell it. The community sold it as it being a done deal, and they were going to do all these things. The Paramount deal fell through, right? That was hot talk for about a week. This has been going on. It's been ongoing for the last, 2 weeks, maybe 3, give or take. And ultimately, at the end of the conversation, it's just 10%. And I'm not being facetious, folks, but it is just 10%. It is not the whole company. And the fact of the matter is, now, granted, you can play the card that they can't afford to buy Kadokawa. Maybe there's some truth to that. But there's also some truth that we heard behind the scenes that was made public, that Kadokawa didn't want to just sell the anime and the gaming. They wanted to sell the whole kit and caboodle. Now, maybe Sony couldn't afford that. I don't know. Maybe they didn't want that. At the end of the day, it's a stark difference from last week or the week before, where Sony was going to lock up anime and have a monopoly there, and then completely shut out Elden Ring 2 to owning the company, to now owning 10%. Because 10% is going to get you a seat at the big table. There's no doubt about that. Remember, it's 1/10 of the company. That is significant, but that is also not big enough where you're going to have a voice that tells, hey, we're PlayStation, you sold this many here, okay, but we're going to double it because if we lock it down, people are going to buy it on our box. No, I don't think that's the case. I think there would be a lot of people that you might get 2, 3, 4 million people to go out and buy a PlayStation to play the next Elden Ring. That's possible, but most people will buy it on PC, and they're going to be releasing that. The next Elden Ring, which we already know has been announced. It was announced, that it's a co-op thing. That's going to be everywhere. Whenever they announce Elden Ring 2, see money, that is also going to be everywhere. You know why that is? Because the first one sold more than the company itself could have imagined. No one in their right minds or imaginations could have guessed how well Elden Ring was going to sell across multiple platforms.
Bro, they already been there, done that, boom.
Yeah.
They released Bloodborne. They released Bloodborne. 1 million people bought it. They released Bloodborne there. This has been there, done that. There's no confusion. You think they're going to go back to being the random company? No, once they did that, they stopped, they moved forward, and they've been progressively getting more sales as they release new stuff. And Elden Ring was just the pinnacle of it, right? We'll see what they come up with next, but they're never going back. I could tell you that much. They never going back.
I agree. I think it's going to be very difficult to try and moving forward with all of the companies, because you got to remember, gaming development has quadrupled in price. This isn't class math 101. It's common knowledge that development cost has doubled, tripled, even quadrupled in some aspects. No one can afford to put a game on one platform and hope that one platform's fans go out and buy that game in droves. It's just not feasible. It's exactly why Xbox is doing what they're doing. Now, granted, I'm still in my feels about the Trinity. You know that. I'm never bending the knee to that. But something like a Starfield goes next year, I'm not going to cry about it. Again, old me would have been like, yeah, I wouldn't give Sony anything, but that's not the business model, folks. I had to adjust my way of thinking, because if I stay stagnant, the business and gaming is going to leave me behind. So I have to move with the times. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, so will you. Now, you may not like it, and I understand it. I was there. But these are the sad realities of business. And again, bringing this all the way back to where we started with Kadokawa and Sony, it is only 10%. It is not a full-on acquisition, and it's honestly, in my opinion, because they either could not agree on what to sell, or Sony could not actually come up with the monies to buy the company as a whole. So they said, you know what, we'll just invest and then do something else. And that's exactly what they wound up doing. But
listen, Xbox wanted Starfield, and they bought the building.
Yeah,
Sony wanted anime, and they opened up their Robinhood app and added a few more percentages to their ownership. All right, let's get this clear. We are not the same. I really don't care. The funny thing is that people want to treat it, when we talk about this stuff, as if we're console warring. First of all, I don't console war. I don't care. I have everything, right? I pony war, right? It's the ponies who sit here and they talk stupid shit. I'm sorry, stupid crap. And then it's supposed to be taken as gospel when they're clearly delusional. Clearly. I just said about the games, right? Remember, this is what you hear out there, right? This is supposed to be a mountain games. Okay. So I talk about the games that the first party platforms are making. How many games are the first party platform holder? Are they producing? How many? For the gamer who supposedly bought the box to play their games, right? That's why you do it, right? That's why you do it. That's why you buy a PlayStation, supposedly, is because you want to play PlayStation games, not games that they bought from somebody else that you would have gotten had they not bought it. No one bought a PlayStation saying, I'm buying a PlayStation because PlayStation money hats these games. No. You know why? Because you don't know what games those are going to be. You don't know what games they're going to money hat. They might get a good one now and a crap one later. You have no idea. The only reason you think you buy a PlayStation is because you say to yourself, if you're not one of, let's rephrase that to what a hardcore PlayStation player, the only reason they buy a PlayStation is because they claim to love Naughty Dog and Sucker Punch and these other studios that they have, and they're looking forward to seeing what first party games are going to come from PlayStation. What do you have when PlayStation is not releasing those games? You have no reason to be there. That is the reality of what it is. Now, over here on Xbox, dude, I get it. We had times in the past where we didn't have a lot of big games coming, right? But those times are done. We're not waiting for a future. People get confused when I say I'm excited for the future. I'm not excited for the future because we don't have a present. I'm excited for the future because we do have a present, and this present is amazing. And next year is going to be even more amazing. And the year after that, we already know is going to be amazing. What do you know, ponies? You know you're getting Ghost of Yote, which half of you were crapping on because it's a girl now. Okay, that's what half of the ponies were crying about, and then the other half are like me, wondering where's Jin? Didn't they invest in this character? People liked him. He had a decent story, right? One that you would want to see continue, right? What's next for him? Now he's a ghost. You just finished it, right? You finished it supposedly canonically. This is the crazy thing. Back when the game came out, canonically, like the canon was going to be from when he became a ghost. They were going to move forward with that.
Yeah.
Interesting how they didn't.
Yeah.
How they didn't. And Mr. Toast, yes, the F we can, bro. I've been using it since I was God knows how long amongst all my homies. That being said, I'm not going to say what he said because I don't need to be out there, but absolutely we can. We've done it since the age of time, man. That's the reality.